So OpenShift Container Platform basically gives us a container orchestration platform for modernizing our legacy applications to run in containers. The Kubernetes platform is what gives us the container-based flexibility, scalability, and adaptability that we need to move our legacy apps to a more modern and sustainable state. Well, it scales very well. It provides you with a landing pad to modernize what you have in a phased approach. So you don't have to do it all at once, right? You can take small pieces of work and implement those on OpenShift over time. It enables us to be able to implement things like GitOps, configuration as a service, infrastructure as a service, using the tools that are native to OpenShift, which gives us far greater reliability and consistency as far as monitoring for any kind of drift in configuration or unauthorized changes. So it pretty much gives us a lot of visibility on things that are otherwise relatively difficult to see using the old means of doing what we do. So it provides us with a modern set of tools to accomplish all those objectives. So I think the easiest answer to that question is OpenShift as a platform. I don't know that I would necessarily say that I have any real complaints. However, as far as the architecture that it sits on in order to run, it's still very much so focused on x86-based computing architecture. And in our case, we're using both x86 computing architecture and S390 compute architecture on a mainframe. And OpenShift as a whole in general is slightly slower and behind pace as far as making things compatible or workable on S390 as opposed to x86. So that's kind of true of the entire Kubernetes marketplace in general. So it's not just an OpenShift problem, but it's still a pain point for us because it puts us in a position where we're having to wait on things on the one hand that we might not have to wait on for the other compute architectures. So to have them be moving in parallel would be nice. 10. Well, I mean, we recently, like I said, we just recently migrated some of our first subsets of applications to containers on OpenShift. And through the use of our GitOps mechanisms and our CI/CD pipelines that we had leveraged on some previous modernization efforts, we were able to essentially leverage all of that work and just modify the destination to be OpenShift. And it just plugged right in. And from an onboarding standpoint, that's huge because the learning curve and some of the unknowns that might be a problem, that makes it real easy for us to leverage some of that modernization work we've already done if we're landing it on OpenShift. So as far as housing and controlling and administering containerized runtimes, OpenShift makes all that very easy. Well, it's had a very positive impact in that it's giving us a very good working example of what we can do as far as modernization is concerned. So whether you're talking about modernizing apps or modernizing workflows, processes, modernizing the way we monitor our systems or capture metrics, now that we have OpenShift and it's actually working, it's up and running, it's a live platform, we can actually show it. We can actually produce the data, produce the metrics, produce the dashboards, and demonstrate in reality as opposed to just speaking of it hypothetically. Well, we've done work on Docker and we've done work in Podman, which aren't really apples to apples as far as OpenShift because they're just purely containerization tools. They're not necessarily platforms. We did an evaluation on a tool, another Kubernetes-based tool, and I don't even remember the name of it. I cannot think of the name of this tool. It's a VMware tool. I don't remember. They have a Kubernetes solution that they offer. But as far as the features, functionality, cost of ownership, OpenShift outshines those others that we've looked at. So it seems to be the market leader. Yeah, I mean, and for us, I don't know that we've necessarily realized the value yet because we have such a small footprint actually running on the platform. So right now it may be somewhat out of balance in that obviously you're going to pay the same for OpenShift whether you've got one app running on it or 10,000 apps running on it. But if we take what we have now and elaborate, kind of expand from there, then we can see that it will become more cost effective the more work we have running there. So we see it as we will get to the point where we can show a return on the investment once we have more workload and payload on the platform.
Are you happy with the product's feature set?
Yeah, very happy with it. The only exception there would be what I said earlier about computing architecture, kind of having a little bit of an issue with being able to use all the latest and greatest features on OpenShift regardless of compute platform. That's the only real complaint that we have. Other than that, the feature sets are great. I don't think any product lives up to sales and marketing. So that's not bad for OpenShift, that's bad for the sales and marketing guys. It's doing what we need it to do, so I'll say that. I would say that the answer to the question is yes, once we almost knew what we were doing, because the learning curve is so significant. I mean, anything involving Kubernetes, whether it be OpenShift or whatever. I remember the name of that VMware tool. Do you want me to say it? Tanzu.
Okay.
Tanzu was the other tool we mentioned. Anyway, answer me the question again. I just got totally sidetracked.
How implementation went?
Yeah. So the learning curve is very significant. And I mean, it's not something you just come in cold and you're just able to do it. And that's not necessarily the fault of the tool. Again, it's just a matter of the fact that you've got to have help, and you've got to kind of acquire some fundamental knowledge before you can really get some traction. Once we got traction, we were able to start really moving quickly and immediately improving on our turnover times and our the amount of time it took us to build clusters, deploy clusters, modify clusters, manipulate clusters. All that fell into place really well once we had that foundational knowledge. So yeah, I think it's, once you get rolling, it very quickly becomes an efficient process. But you also, the more you know, the more you realize how much you don't know. So that's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't buy it, but yes, I would tell someone to buy it again, yeah.